Hey there, I'm Daniel McFadden, and I got a much needed haircut. That's right, I'm fresh off getting my first haircut of 2021, and with that, I'm also ready to bring you my latest Dropping the Hammer interview. This week's guest is Darryl Kinsey Jr. Darryl is the host of Two Wide Tuesdays on WGBR Sports Network. I was a guest on his show a few weeks ago on the night of the Busch Clash, and I wanted to pay that back to him. From the start of Dropping the Hammer, it was my goal to make this a very inclusive program in order to give as many different voices in the NASCAR community a chance to have their voice heard about their favorite sport in some capacity. And Darryl is my latest hope at making that true. He's a black NASCAR fan from Maryland. He's also a grad student at the University of Maryland. And among the topics we discuss in this interview is how he became a NASCAR fan, the importance of 2311 racing into bringing more fans from the black community into the sport, his reaction to the Confederate flag being banned last year, and many other topics, including our hopes and expectations for the 2021 NASCAR season. I had a real fun time talking with Darryl, and I hope to be able to do so again later throughout the year. So let's get to it. My interview with Darryl. Before we start, please remember to like and subscribe, share with your friends. Also, be sure to look out for the podcast version of Dropping the Hammer, which I co-host with my good friend James Crow. You can find that on all podcasting platforms. So here it is, my Dropping the Hammer interview with Darryl Kinsey Jr. All right, man. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of return the favor since I was on your show. I've already started recording, so
Yeah, that's fine.
So I guess welcome to Dropping the Hammer. I guess first off, tell me. You're in Maryland, is that right?
Yep, I'm out in Bowie, Maryland, about 10 minutes outside of our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. So when all the crazy stuff is going on, you guys are like, oh, that's so far away. Yeah, that's right down the street. I've been to that place so many times. Of course, the Capitol. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've been in that. I've been in the mall. It's a nice place. Kind of terrible what they're doing to it. So I know about all the street closed. When y'all hear about they close streets around here, it's like, it's gonna take like an hour to get anywhere in the city now. It's bad.
So all right, man. So NASCAR, how does so are you originally from Maryland? Is that where you born and raised?
All my life, been here in Maryland, PG County.
So how's a kid from Maryland get into auto racing and NASCAR?
That is an excellent question. I think everyone asks me, and the way my mother tells it is that we were living. Yeah, I'll probably get into my mother a lot. She's my biggest cheerleader. Every time I send her stuff, she's like, "Oh my God, Darryl, so great!" But anyway, let me continue before I start crying on here. So I don't know how old I was, and she's looking for something. Or no, I'm watching one of my tapes, and one of the things I used to do, and for the young people, we used to watch things on VHS tapes. I know a lot of people not our age are not going to know what those are, but I'm watching the credits scroll. I'm trying to figure out where the credits are going. I'm 4 or 5 when this is going on. So the tape stops and there's a car race on. And the way my mother tells it is I sit back down and I watch the entire race the whole way through. And she said, I did not move until that race was over. And that's how my love of racing started. And it's been that way ever since. You know, people love football, people love baseball. When it's February, man, Daytona 500, that first race.
Yeah.
Don't call me to do anything because I'm be in front of that TV. Hopefully watching a good race, and of course the demo derby that happens in the last 10 laps.
So do you have any idea what that race was that you watched at 4 or 5 years
I have no idea. I was far too young. I can't even remember now.
So like growing up, if you tell friends that, hey, yeah, I'm a NASCAR fan, what was like the reaction?
Well, to tell you a little bit of background about Prince George's County, it's the most affluent African-American community in the country. So there's not a lot of NASCAR fans here. And unfortunately, I became a fan pre everything that Bubba Wallace has done, which is everything pre the last 30 years. So people were like, you watch that white sport? And it never dawned on me because I always watched racing and especially NASCAR. And, you know, there's at that point, we had, I came up before Willie T. Ribbs. He did run a couple of races in the trucks, but nothing too spectacular. Bill Lester around 2000 was racing, but he was in his 40s, didn't really have the money. We didn't really have a lot of African Americans in the sport. We didn't really have a lot of African American pit crew members. So it never really dawned on me that NASCAR was this all white thing because I never really thought about it. And then people pointed out to me and I'm like, yeah, it is. It feels that way, but I never thought there was a racial requirement to watch cars go around in a circle. This is just what I know. This is just the sport I love. And it never really, dawned on me the other stuff. Some people thought it was fun. Some people thought it was weird. But one of the things funny is I wore back in 2007, I went to my first race. I got one of the old flame Jeff Gordon jackets. And one of my friends saw the jackets and he was like, oh man, that's cool. Where'd you get that? So I told him, I got off NASCAR.com. So he got himself, I believe it was like either one of the black Kyle Busch jackets or the Clint Boyer jacket. So a week later, he comes to school. He's rocking the Clint Boyer jacket. And like, that's awesome. So he's rocking the Clint Boyer. I'm rocking the Jeff Gordon. We're a school of 100 people and you kind of stand out because you have to wear uniforms, but you come to school every day in a NASCAR jacket, people kind of take notice.
Yeah, it's weird how NASCAR jackets have like come back around, like with celebrities and stuff, just wearing them because it's like the hipper trendy thing. It's like, man, who the long-term planning for this? Who would have thought that? I wonder how, like, I know you could get stuff on eBay, but I want to know like how good's that market right now for those old vintage jackets?
I have no idea. I know a friend of mine got one of the classic Jeff Gordon jackets, and I'm like, I want to get my hands on that, but that's going to be an arm and a leg right now, and it's just something you can't stretch, especially in this pandemic economy. But I really want one of those old Rainbow Warrior jackets because I had one as a kid. Fortunately, I outgrew it, and I'm like, I wish I had one of the adult sizes. I would rock that one. The first track I'd get back to, I would rock that jacket. Just unironically.
So that first race you went to in 2007, what race was it?
That was Dover. It was the race that got rain delayed and Martin Truex Jr. won his first race. That was also that race where Kurt Busch and Tony Stewart got into it when Kurt Busch went crazy and either Kurt Busch or Tony Stewart went crazy, went down to the pit box, caused a whole bunch of ruckus. That accident actually happened in front of us, but I was just listening to Jeff Gordon's radio at the time. I didn't listen to the radio, so I didn't realize what had happened on pit lane. So I get home and watch the highlights next day, and I'm like, oh, wow. I kind of wish I had noticed that was happening because I noticed the 20 down there. I thought that was just his pit and he was trying to get down from the lap down because where I was sitting was turn 4. So you're perpendicular to pit road. So you don't have a good view. I think those grandstands are still there. No, it was a second deck. So those grandstands are no longer there. But yeah, that was a fun race to be at. That was the first one I got to see the COT because I really wanted to see the COT in action. I will defend that car to my dying breath.
Oh boy.
The original one with the wing. I loved that car. I will defend that car to my dying breath. That COT was a good race car.
You might be in a Facebook group of one.
Yeah, I am. I was in
COT fan club. Darryl Kinsey.
Yeah, I was in the NASCAR. I'm about to date myself so badly right now, and I don't care. I was in the NASCAR chat room back when that was a thing. People are complaining about this car, and here I am, 16, 17 years old, defending this race car that I will never own in my life to the death that this is actually a good car. And I just look back at it, and I'm like, it's so silly that I was doing that. But when you're a NASCAR fan, you don't think about these things. And when you're a racing fan, you defend your car. Some people will trash it. I have some COTs behind me, but thanks to my little nieces and nephews, they destroyed all the wings on the back of them. But, you know, you're defending cars, you're defending drivers, you know, you're in there in the chat room. People are talking about their rigging races, got to fight that off. Oh, so-and-so. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like what Twitter is now. Because I think we had a little bit more respect in the chat room, mainly because there was constant moderation. But, you know, every week we came back together, sat there in the chat room watching the races. It's kind of how Twitter is now to a certain extent, just a lot more people, and we're all together in the hashtag talking about the race that's going on. And sometimes that chatter is not so nice, but it's still a lot of fun. And from my perspective, I get to sit here and watch how the NASCAR fandom and how we've come together has grown in just the last 15 years with the advent of social media. I would not think that I'd be sitting here doing a podcast for a multitude of reasons. I wouldn't think that I'd be sitting here talking to another person like you, who's another NASCAR fan and a current writer about this sport. And every day it's a dream, but you got to keep going forward. You got to keep wondering. I just wonder what's it going to be like in 10 years, how the fan base is going to be interacting with one another.
Oh, we'll be communicating via the implants in our brains.
Probably about that time. So you can broadcast the internet right here.
Yeah.
On these glasses.
So you were a Jeff Gordon kid, huh?
Yes, I was. He was the first one, the Rainbow Wars. Red was my favorite color. The front of that car was red, so I kind of fell in with him. And at that time, he was winning like everything, so it made it easy to latch on to him. And it was a lot of fun. But also, you're a Jeff Gordon fan, and there's a lot of Dale Earnhardt fans. So
present.
See, so you know what I mean. You're getting a lot of heat the few times, especially the few times that I didn't really get to go to racing in the mid-2000s. The few times I talked to racing fans and they're Earnhardt fans, and you find out they're a Gordon fan. You know, there's a lot of friendly going back and forth, but I honestly think that rivalry was more of the fans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Than them, because those two are just laughing all the way to the bank with all the shirt sales and commercials and everything. But the fans, it really is. I mean, they did that NASCAR advertising campaign about all the different nations of drivers. That's really how it is. Like, everyone congregates with their favorite driver. There's that driver that they collectively hate. There's some drivers that everybody likes, but at the end of the day, it is a family, but there are factions within that family. It's really funny to see them interact, especially when the two fans don't like each other, get into accidents, because that's when Twitter really gets exciting.
Oh yeah. But yeah, the Earnhardt Gordon thing, that was a generational rivalry between fans.
Yeah, it was.
That's really what it was. Like, they really, as far as I know, they really didn't have much on track. I know from the Unrivaled documentary that Dale wrecked Gordon at Phoenix. There was the whole Pocono bump and run thing. They kind of went head to head in like the '99 Daytona 500 at the end. They finished 1-2. But it wasn't like a week in, week out thing.
Their run-ins together, as I think about it, was few and far between. I know 97, that accident where Senior got flipped over and they taped his car back together, which was awesome to see as a 7-year-old. You know, they had that accident. But what always struck me about that rivalry, now that I think about it, is the fans really didn't like each other, but the drivers never really got into it on the track other than those few incidents a year. It's not like they're always running back in forth with each other, which made it funny for me, because it's like, we really don't like each other, but the drivers don't seem to have this same problem. Now, it's different for, like, fast forward to 2003, Jimmy Spencer and Kurt Busch fans, because those two about ready to kill each other at one point. So it's interesting how these rivalries form.
Yeah, it's not like Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch.
Or Brad Keselowski and JGR at this point.
I guess, yeah. So, man, 2021 NASCAR season. It's been labeled by Fox as like greatest season ever. So what were your expectations for the season coming into it?
I was expecting a lot of chaos with how the schedule has shaken up, and we've already seen that much chaos with Michael McDowell picking up a win. Nobody saw that coming. Christopher Bell getting a win early. No one saw that coming. It's really shaping up to where it's going to be extremely aggressive to get wins, to get into the playoffs, because you've already got the guy nobody thought was going to win, Michael McDowell, a guy no one thought was going to win early in Christopher Bell. So that's 2 guaranteed spots already gone.
Yeah.
And we've still got wild card races. We've still got COTA coming up. I have no idea how that's going to go. That's going to be in May. We've still got Bristol Dirt. Yeah. I have no idea what Bristol Dirt's going to look like.
I know.
I think that's going to be chaos.
I'm going to love no matter the quality of it, I'm going to love it.
Whether it's good or bad, we're going to have something to talk about after that race, and that's the only thing that matters as far as I'm concerned. That race could be great. It could be terrible. And as long as it doesn't rain, because if it rains, we ain't racing. I've been to dirt tracks before. I do media for my station out at Hagerstown Speedway. If it rains hard enough, you are not racing that day. There's no jet dryer that's going to get that up. So praying for no rain. But other than that, this season is already shaping up to where wins are more important than ever. So I expect a lot of strategies being played on pit road late in these races. I also expect a lot of rooting, gouging, a lot of flaring tempers. And that's what we like to see as NASCAR fans. So these guys have to get up on the wheel. And there's a lot of new teams, obviously 2311, one of those teams that wants to prove something. Yeah. One of those teams could luck up and get a win, and that's your playoff grid all out of whack there. So this season, to me, I don't know if it's going to be the greatest of all time. I don't know how you quantify that, but this is shaping up to be a season we're going to be talking about good or bad for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah. Like, if it does rain at Bristol, they should just put, like, skids on the cars. Like,
they might as well. Yeah. Have a skid plate race. It'll be great.
My only concern about that race is the length of it. It's 250 laps. I mean, I don't know what a 250 lap dirt race looks like. So
I've never seen that before. So that track it's pretty much going to be probably similar to asphalt at the end with how much rubber is going to be put down. So I really don't know what their plan is for grooming the track. I know they're having that big event the month before where World of Outlaws is coming in with the sprint cars and late miles. They're going to have like 1,000 cars or something for that show. Yeah. People are going to that. You're not getting out of there till 3 a.m. So we're going to find out how much rubber can get put down by that many laps. Because with 1,000 cars there collectively, they're going to run north of 200-400 laps. So we're going to see how that dirt holds, and it's going to teach them a lot for April. But I really would be surprised if we still went into that weekend and the cup race is still going to be 250 laps. I really feel like that might come down. I just have this sneaking suspicion after they get done in March.
And they're having heat races to basically determine the starting order. So you got that too. Okay, so Darryl, talk to me about this. Okay, as a black NASCAR fan, how can you quantify how big a deal 2311 racing is?
2311 is probably the biggest deal for a black racing fan in NASCAR that we have seen probably since Bill Lester qualified for Atlanta in the Cup car way back when. That race that I think that was a rain delayed race, and Jimmy Johnson and Carl Edwards had that awesome battle. But this team with Michael Jordan coming in and buying a racing team, there are people who know I'm a NASCAR fan that have never watched NASCAR. When that announcement was made, messaged me on Facebook asking me how big of a deal this was. You know, there's people at work where I work that come to do their shows that ask me about that because I talk about NASCAR a lot. If you want to bring more people that look like me into this sport, that team and its success is going to do it, because there's no more recognizable name in my community than the Jordan brand. Everyone wears the shoes. Everyone, at least my age, watch Space Jam. I still have the towel, which is so faded that
really?
Michael Jordan is now white. That's how old the towel is. So this was a big deal to make Black people sit up and go, wait a minute, what's going on in NASCAR? And that's how you see or even before that, Bernard Pollard came in, Alvin Kamara came in.
Yeah.
All that started because they got rid of the Confederate flag. I think that's the second most important thing that NASCAR could do, was tell people this flag is not allowed here anymore. Because a lot of the people I talked to would not go into the sport because that flag was there. And we've already seen it. That flag is gone. You know, Bernard Pollard's in there tweeting about NASCAR every week. Alvin Kamara's probably going to have a team the way he's going, because he went from going to a race to he's sponsoring Ryan Vargas. And then I guess someone told him, hey, you know, he can own his own team when he went to the Daytona 500. So he's probably thinking about doing that. You know, Pitbull bought into Trackhouse Racing. Every time one of these moves happen, you see me tweet it, and I will say it every time. This does not happen if the Confederate flag is still in our sport. And NASCAR is going to be in a much better position with minorities now that it is gone.
Did you completely
believe that?
So did you let me know if I heard you right. You said it was this banning the Confederate flag was the second biggest thing that NASCAR could do?
I think the second biggest thing is what they did was with the flag. The first biggest thing, I think, is 2311 with Michael Jordan coming in just because of impact.
Okay.
And I might switch those, to be honest, and say Confederate flag first and Michael Jordan second, because I remember when that was announced, the people were like, oh, that's just NASCAR being performative. I'm like, no, you don't understand how big of a deal this is with this community. What NASCAR just did was a huge gamble that they didn't know was going to work out, because the core fan bases, we'll call it, you basically told them, we don't want your symbol. And a lot of them took it to mean, we don't want you here, which is not what that means. But they want to make the sport more welcoming. So removing NASCAR, even considering that, is a huge step. And the fact that they actually did it is amazing. I think, I am going to switch those. I'm going to say that.
Okay.
Second was 2311. Number one has got to be they got rid of that flag, got rid of the Confederate flag.
All right. Okay. Because yesterday I was a guest on a podcast that will be out later this week, and we talked about it. It's I know the significance of the rebel flag. I would see it at tracks. I would hate it. I got disgusted every time I saw it. But I don't think I ever really appreciated, or probably will ever appreciate, how much that flag held people back from embracing NASCAR. So can you what, besides the Civil War, slavery, and all that, can you explain why that flag would keep someone from wanting to embrace a sport?
So that flag has become a symbol of what I will call the systemic racism that a lot of people feel in the United States against African Americans when they see a lot of the rallies of people that don't think people that look like me are actually people. They would see that flag and they would connect it with that ideology, which, going back to the history of the Civil War, it's kind of what it was. So when they see that flag, they think of a people that are connected with an ideology that doesn't see Black people as equal. And Black people have a thing where, if y'all don't want us there, we're not going to be there, because we're not going to put ourselves through the mental drama and the anguish of being in a place where people don't like us. Now, I know for a fact that that's not a thing. I've been to races before. No one's really bothered me because I was an African American. You know, I even went to like a local dirt track race in back when I was a freshman in college, I went to Williams Grove. I was only African American on the property, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. No one really messed with me. No one said anything to me. I watched sprint car race, took some videos on my phone, went home. But there's a belief that if they go there, people are going to treat them unfairly. And a lot of folks are not going to put themselves in that position and just aren't going to go. Now that that flag is gone, it's a symbol from NASCAR. People are taking it that, yes, we are more welcoming. Yes, we want to see you here. Yes, we believe you are equal, because race cars don't have a race. There is no racial requirement to like this sport. Mm-hmm. And it's going to start bringing people in, I hope. And what's going to help that is going to be the success of 2311.
And I never really thought that they would ban the flag. But what, like,
I didn't see it coming either.
That was gonna be my next question. Like, Bubba Wallace, called for it to be banned. I was like, if they don't ban it now, they're screwed. So yeah, if I had told you in March of last year that within 2 months the Confederate flag would be banned, what would your reaction have been?
I'd probably want whatever you were smoking, because I did not see that. I didn't think they'd ever make the move. I know they'd had conversations about it, but I think the one thing that pushed them to it, and a lot of people say, Bubba Wallace, but I really think that Kyle Larson thing was the catalyst, because they needed a win in racial matters. Because that whole week after Kyle Larson said what he said, NASCAR was getting dragged through the mud by black media on their, I'm just going to admit it, they had a racist past, with everything that happened with Wendell Scott, and then whatever may have happened with Willie T. Ribbs, and the fact that the few black drivers that have come up have not had the equipment. They haven't had the sponsorship. They haven't had the opportunities that their white peers had. Even Bubba Wallace, during his best statistical year in the Xfinity Series, his team shut down. Yeah. The same team where he finished 6 straight times, 6th.
The team shut down
because they didn't have sponsors. I remember that because it was just hilarious, because he would go up or down, and at the end of the race, 6th. It was like 6, 6, 6. My dude, you need to play that at the lottery, because you're probably gonna make a lot of money to actually put a sponsor on the front of that car. And then unfortunately, Roush couldn't support it anymore and pulled the plug. And I thought that was gonna be it for Bubba Wallace, not knowing he's gonna go to Michigan and win in the truck and end up in the 43 for the few years that he was there. But to bring us back to the original point, I really didn't think it would have happened, but I don't know if it happens, if the Kyle Larson thing doesn't happen, because they desperately needed that win when it comes to racial equality, because they were taking it on the chin from that. And then Bubba says what he says about the Confederate flag. Either way, they were going to have to do it. But the fact that everything before that happened made it so impactful. And I don't even think that week, even though the Confederate flag was so important, the fact that when we got to Atlanta and you've got the NASCAR president coming up and he makes that speech about racial equality and we have that minute of silence, to me, that was where I said, they get it. They actually understand what's going on now. And it's going to take them a little bit. I know there's going to be it's going to take a while, but in that moment, I really thought this sport is finally reckoning with its past and trying to go forward.
So so much happened in such a short amount of time with NASCAR. Like you starting off with the Larson thing. NASCAR's probably never had the reputation recede so quickly because of one incident, and then just like shoot back up. like it did a couple months later with Bubba. Just from people you interact with in your community and the media, the black media that you're plugged into, how did the narratives play out over those 3 months?
A lot of people were surprised that they actually did it, because a lot of people did not think that Bubba was or that they were going to take away the flag. They didn't think that they would actually take the George Floyd thing seriously. And I know I said thing there. I don't want to, belittle what happened there. It was a major, awful moment in history that unfortunately has played out far too many times. But a lot of the black media that I saw actually applauded NASCAR for finally taking the steps. And they kind of used the words that I use. They kind of had a reckoning on their past and are starting to build up. And it's starting to soften the image of the sport. I know there's a lot of black people that are paying attention. There's a lot of black people that are paying attention to what 2311 could do going on for the next couple of years. So NASCAR's in a good place finally when it comes to racial issues. We'll have to see when we finally get crowds back fully what that does to the crowd makeup, because, when this was all still going on, there was also global pandemic that has shut down the sport for 8 years. So, or 8 weeks, sorry.
8 years.
So I hope it's not 8 years, or we're going to be sitting here in a much different situation, let me tell you. But with all of that going on, that NASCAR could make that decision, a lot of the media applauded them. Now, we still want to see more, obviously. We're getting there with the ownership. We've got to find a way to get more black drivers in the sport.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to have to help, but NASCAR is going to have to outreach and do some things in minority communities where first they're not really exposed to the sport in an urban environment. And then the expenses for youth racing are just so astronomical for communities that have historically been more distressed. It's not just a low chance, it's a non-starter that a kid from a disadvantaged neighborhood, their family is going to be able to mortgage where they're living to drop $15,000 on a quarter midget. It's just not going to happen. And not just a quarter midget, everything that comes with that quarter midget, the truck, spare parts, all the trailer, all of that stacks up. NASCAR is going to have to find a way to deal with that, because that's really the only way you're going to find your youth drivers. And they've started it with the Drive for Diversity program, but I really want to see that program expand and take off from there.
So when the discussions were happening last year about the Rebel flag, and there would be press conferences with drivers, like I think Martin Truex Jr. and Joey Logano, and they'd be asked about it. It's like, oh, I need to learn all the facts about it, or I need to get educated on it. When you would hear drivers give those kind of answers about the Rebel flag and its significance, what was your reaction to them saying, I need to know more, or stuff like that?
I'm not surprised. They never had to think about it before, so I'm not surprised they said it. But did you go and actually educate yourself? Because we saw Denny Hamlin, he went and visited the museum and went and studied why this was such a big deal to people. And then even Kyle Larson on his redemption tour, actually going to George Floyd's funeral and seeing just why the racial disparity in this country was so important. So I wasn't really as upset as some other people would be, because I'm like, they've never had to think about this before. But my whole thing is, did you go and get yourself educated? And what do you think now? And that's what I would have asked them like a couple of weeks later, is I would have brought it back up and I would have said, okay, during this time, you said you need to find out more about it. What have you learned since then about this rebel flag situation? And unfortunately, there's a lot of African Americans that are, well, we shouldn't have to tell everybody, the history's out there. Not everybody had the same upbringing. Unfortunately, not everybody had the same upbringing as us. I know we've heard about it, the MLK stories, what happened in Tulsa way back when, that unfortunate incident. We've heard all the stories before. A lot of those guys haven't. And a lot of the guys with what they've learned in the history, they've never had to learn it. So my hope for them is, okay, you say you need to learn more. Did you go and learn more? And what do you think about it now?
Okay. I like that answer. When Steve Phelps gave that address at Atlanta, I'm wondering, would you rather have had Jim France give that address at the track instead of Steve Phelps?
I'm okay with Steve Phelps giving that address because he was, or the Steves, as we know, have been the outward facing media for the sport. Jim doesn't really, we haven't seen him on camera much. It really seems like he doesn't do a lot of that. So the Steves are the ones we've interacted with. Steve O'Donnell and Steve Phelps are the first timers who don't know who I'm talking about. Yeah. We've interacted with them the most. They take a lot on the chin on Twitter, but they're the ones we talk to the most. So I'm completely okay with Steve Phelps being the one to give that address.
Okay. Because ever since that day, I was like, I really think that the actual guy in charge of NASCAR should have been the one to give that address, because that would mean more. To have the France do it. Not Steve Phelps is good guy. He's got a good, strong hand of the leadership of the sport. But for me personally, I wanted to see the head honcho give that address.
And I can understand people wanting Jim to do that as well. So I understand completely.
If only he would do an interview. So
I forget that he's running the sport sometimes because we don't hear from him. Like, you just reminded me that Jim France is running the show. And I don't know if they're trying to do a new thing after everything Brian did, which that could be another podcast. But sometimes I do want to hear from Jim. Like, do you like where the sport is going? What do you think about the road courses? A lot of people have been talking about wanting the 550 horsepower package to die in a fire. Do you want it to die in a fire? Like, what are your thoughts about what's going on in the sport? I understand that he doesn't really do a lot of the media stuff, but at least do like a state of the sport interview on NASCAR Race Day or NASCAR America once a year. At least do something so that we remember that you're still around, at least.
Yeah, we hear from the heads of every other major sport in the country on a regular basis, and we have not heard him address the media since he became the guy in charge in 2018. It's been 3 years. So I still can't believe it. At this point in the interview, I asked Darryl to walk me through the diecast collection that he has in his room. Among the cars were quite a few Jeff Gordon cars, Casey Kane's Red Bull car, Tony Stewart's 2011 Office Depot car. But the last one was Bubba Wallace's Black Lives Matter car, the car he drove at Martinsville Speedway in the middle of last year. And I asked him what that car meant to him.
And of course, autographed the Black Lives Matter scheme.
So what does that car mean to you?
I never thought I would see a Black Lives Matter car in NASCAR. I'm gonna hold this up while I speak about it. I've seen 5011 Trump cars around this time. I never thought I would see something like this on a racetrack. I always talked about it. What if someone ran a Black Lives Matter car? And when this was announced, I said, I have to get this die cast. I have to immortalize this moment. Because again, it was one of those times where NASCAR is saying, we understand. And for Bubba to run this scheme and have a top 10 run in it as well was incredible to me. And it's a scheme that I value. It's a scheme that I cherish, and I'm going to remember that night for probably the rest of the days that I live. seeing that Black Lives Matter scheme on the racetrack. It means a lot to me that actually happened.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people were cheering for that top 10 finish, probably more than anyone's ever cheered for anyone to finish in the top 10. That car that night. I pre-ordered that diecast, but then I moved and I forgot to change my billing address. So
somebody got a nice surprise.
Well, no, because the order wouldn't have gone through because I forgot to. Forgot to bill it, so it just kind of evaporated. So
yeah.
But I do want that scheme. So
yeah, this is one of the ones that got here late because of the pandemic. So I didn't remember at the time that I actually got in the Chrome version because I just wanted to get the autographed version, and then I didn't realize I got in the Chrome. But I'm like, this is really nice, so I like it, and I'm gonna try to hold on to that one for as long as I can.
That's really cool, man. So with 2311 Racing, for potential fans in the black community, does 2311 need to like win instantly in order to keep their attention, or are they going to be like in it for long haul?
Okay, so I have to couch this as a racing fan. I understand that they're not going to win this first season, and I'd be surprised if they would. There's a lot of people that are hoping he's going to win. I've heard some people talking, oh, he's going to win the championship. I don't see that happening. I just don't. They have no practice, no qualifying. It's a new team. I don't see it happening. I think he has to run consistent, though. I think they've got to start picking up some top 10s and staying on TV so people will realize that, they're still around. And of course, TV is still going to show him when he's running well, but they've got to start getting consistent top 10s. I don't think he has to win yet. But year 2, year 3, we want to start seeing 2311 cars pulling into victory lane, because if Bubba starts rattling off wins, black folks are going to flock to it. Because, perfect example, Tiger Woods. A lot of black people didn't watch golf until he started winning. A lot of people didn't watch tennis until the Williams sisters showed up and started decimating everyone at majors. And there's still black people that only watch tennis for the Williams sisters and now Naomi Osaka and Coco Gauff and the others. So for NASCAR, while I don't think right now that 2011 needs to start winning for them to hold on to this audience, they definitely need to start winning soon, is how I would put it. Okay.
I think Bubba can win this year. Like Martinsville, I think he could go out and win that. Like you said, he's won on dirt and the trucks, so it's possible that they could go. I mean, he's good. He's good at Bristol, but by itself, I don't know how that's going to translate to dirt on it. And he could get a super speedway. So, but I'm really looking forward to like seeing what they do at Homestead. I mean, because that's like the season starts at Homestead. I mean, in many ways, it's a true statement. It's the first traditional oval. I mean, though it does have the high downforce package. So
we'll see. I tried to defend that, and that's a funny thing. I tried to defend that package, but when we got to Kansas in the playoffs, and Harvick could not pass Logano, I'm like, okay, this ain't working. This is definitely not working at all. But I do think that is basically a 5th JGR car. I think he'll be able to get up there. His performance at the Daytona road course is not indicative of how Bubba drives. He's bad at road courses. He'll say that himself. He's going to have to get better, though, but he's bad at them. Now he's coming to a traditional track. We know he can run well at these. And now we're going to get to see what his true pace is, because I can't judge him by the RPM car. I think John Andretti is the last person where that car has been anywhere near good. And someone might be able to help me out on that in the comments later. But now he's getting into a car, which is probably the best equipment he's ever driven in Cup.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're going to start to see where the true pace is.
Okay. So I probably should have asked you this at the top. So tell me, so you host 2 Wide Tuesdays on WBGR Sports?
Yes.
Right? So explain to me. So what is WBGR Sports like?
So that's a social media based platform. We have about 6 different networks where we broadcast shows. We have sports and entertainment, health and wellness, business news and politics, new one, entertainment, gospel, and of course, sports. Unfortunately, we are a small business, and we were one of the businesses that unfortunately got hit pretty hard because of COVID-19, because we've got a lot of people that come in and ran their shows that unfortunately they can't do it anymore because everybody lost their job because of the pandemic. But it's a great network where people can come, they can have their own show. We've got a lot of great personalities, even on the sports side with Tommy Wood and Tom the Bomb Sports Show, where he gives you a week up wrap up. Him and his son come and do that show on Mondays. A coworker of mine, Coy Lasone, does a show called Punches, Kicks, and Giggles, which is a show based on combat sports. The giggles part comes from he was a comedian, still is really. It's really funny. But, you know, where they talk combat sports, and then recently started from the pandemic, I had nothing really else to do because we were all sitting at home. I'm like, let me go ahead and start my own show. So that's where the genesis of 2 Wide Tuesday comes from. I give you the wrap up of what happened in each race. I give you my spin on some of the news that week and get you ready for the next race in 30 minutes. That's what I do there. It's a great network. I've been there a few years now with Lionel Green, who runs it. Really allowed me to take the sports part as my own. I've started expanding into motorsports. Got to go to Hagerstown Speedway in a couple of years, 2 years ago. Got to do races there. And thanks to that, in 2018, I got to go cover my first NASCAR race at the Pocono, Pocono. I got to go there I got to go into the media center, into the deadline room, and get to basically do my dream, which is cover NASCAR. I got to do it that weekend, and it's really whetted my appetite. I want to keep doing stuff like this. I want to be a part of that traveling road show just to show people, especially people that look like me, this sport is really cool and you should really check it out. And that's really why I do the things I do with that and the Extra Mile and iSports Radio, and of course everything else I do on Twitter. I just want to help get more African Americans interested in racing.
Well, good luck, man. It's exciting to watch. So I'm unbelievably excited for what the future could have in store for NASCAR and with minority communities. So so what did you think of? So what did you think of Alvin Kamara? Sponsoring a car in the Xfinity series, and then the horrible reminder that he was sponsoring a JD Motorsports car.
That was really cool when it was first announced that Alvin Kamara is sponsoring a car, and I said that he went to one race and has jumped into this with both feet. Like, he loves this sport. And then his car dies on the front stretch, 15 laps in, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. It's JD Motorsports. And it's not to dump on the team, but it's a back of the road Xfinity team. Everyone knows the score there. They used to be 4 red cars, all with Flex Seal on them, and they all had yellow numbers. So good luck being the spotter, because they all used to run next to each other back in the pack. So it's great to see that team, though, is building. It's great to see that he got out there and sponsored Ryan Vargas. A big tip of the cap to everybody on social media that made that happen. And hopefully that can grow that team to greater heights. I hope Alvin Kamara can come back and do something more like that in the future, maybe even with his own team. But I was excited for it to happen. But man, that is such a reality kick of the teeth when the caution comes out and that car is just sitting there. Yeah, it was a really pretty scheme, though. I will say that.
Yeah, I tweeted during the race, no matter how many headlines you make during the week, It doesn't change the equipment you're racing in Saturday.
No, it doesn't.
So, but I hope it didn't kill his enthusiasm. I hope he gives it another shot, like maybe a track closer to Louisiana. I think like Texas, Texas or Talladega. Those are pretty much the closest ones to Louisiana. So
yeah, if Alvin's watching, it doesn't always go like that. It gets better. Trust me, it gets better.
All right, so where can everyone find you, Darryl?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at DKJr12. Of course, you can catch me on WBGR Sports Entertainment Network. Go over to WBGR Sports on Facebook. Give that a follow. You can make sure you have your notifications on so you know when I go live at 2 White Tuesday. I also do my own podcast, The Extra Mile. That is on Spreaker.com/IE Sports Radio. I do that with Chris Lehman and Michael Ward as well. That's basically where you can find me. And also the UHL Hydroplanes Facebook page where I call esports the Unlimited Hydroplane League. I call us Saturday Night Hydroplane League on there. Our last couple of races. Actually, our last race of the season is coming up here on Saturday.
So you're a busy man.
As I say in my Twitter bio, always busy, and I mean that. I'm always bouncing around doing something. I have ADHD, so I can't sit still.
Oh,
always
you do?
Be doing something.
Oh, do? Okay.
Yeah, I do. So it kind of helps because I'm always doing something.